and welcome to the most hated show in the black corner of the internet. I'm your host, Mr. Blows Your Minds, and this is Black Minds News. This channel is to report, articulate, transmit, communicate, relay, unveil, decode, spread the news, whether it's by news, video, websites, or quotes from publications. As I articulate these information, I ask that the creator universe be here, heart, soul, mind, and spirit. Because why? The truth don't need no partner. As a descendant of the greatest people who created this land that you call the United States, we, the foundational black Americans, bloodline ties, historical lineage, we call ourselves BADOS, Black American Descendant of Slaves. Some say ADOS, American Descendant of Slaves. We, the children of historical lineage to that land and ties to people, we give honor to our ancestors. And you know what my motto for the show is? I'm never going to tell you what I heard. I'm only going to tell you what I know. Well, this story here has been going on and on and on and on. Ever heard of a brother named Keith Davis Jr. out of Baltimore? Keith Davis Jr. Huh? This is a strange and peculiar type of story. I seen this and I was like, damn, can a person be tried for a case this many times? And if they've been tried this many times, shouldn't something go in your mind and say that maybe there's something not right about this? When I looked at this, I decided I'm going to share the story for those who may not have heard of Keith Davis Jr. and how what to me may have been something of a political ruse. I'll say that again, a political ruse to divert so that you can get the national attention. Well, stay tuned for this broadcast, for this particular show. Stay tuned. Hey, how's y'all doing? I'm your host, once again, Mr. Blows Your Minds, coming with another Black News production. Today's date is July 31st, 2019. First and foremost, I want to say what's good to the fam in the house, subscribers, and new ones. Welcome, fam, to the Black Minds News. Thank you for your participation. Passerbys, if you should just happen to get your GPS on your internet, somehow took you over to the most hidden, most tucked in, most covered, most hated show, which is this show, Black Minds News, we welcome you over here. Go through to the aisle, go through the library, you may see some things that might like. If you just happen to see something to make you feel some kind of way, remember that the motto of the show is, the truth don't need no partner. We welcome you to the show. Hopefully that you stay, come back again, subscribe, comment, like, and even dislike. It's always EEOC over here. So let's get into this. So again, I'm talking about this story about Keith Davis Jr. and how this brother has gone through 4 retrials for murder. I'm going to say that again. Have you ever heard such a thing? Keith Davis Jr. had 4 retrials for a murder. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you each piece in segments, right? For those who have no knowledge about anything that you ever heard about this particular story. And then I got a little, insight that I want to put out there, food for thought. and just say, was there political rules in this? Well, what are you talking about, Mr. Blows Your Mind? Well, you know I got to tell you that first and lead you up to it. But first, let's go ahead and play this part out here. And we should be right back. Check this out and make sure everything is good. And so we don't have no problems. All right, let's get it.
Well, Kevin Jones was 22 years old, and according to family members, he'd just been accepted to college when he was murdered. Kevin Jones got up early to walk to his job as a security guard at Pimlico Racecourse on June 7th of last year, but he didn't make it there. Investigators say a man shot him several times in what they describe as a robbery attempt. That man, Keith Davis, is now charged with Jones's murder.
We have forensic evidence, we have ballistic evidence, and when we gathered that evidence in a way that amounted to probable cause.
According to police, cell phone records also placed Keith Davis at the murder scene, and the gun used in the killing was recovered that same day, several hours later, when police confronted and shot Davis while investigating a separate robbery case.
Keith Davis produced that firearm at some point, and our police officers discharged their firearms. It was a police-involved shooting. That firearm was recovered.
Davis was recently tried for the charges related to that case and was acquitted on all but the gun charge. At the news conference announcing the new first-degree murder charge, Commissioner Davis explained the timing 9 months after Jones's murder.
Homicide investigations take time. They take collaboration with our partners, and our partners in this case included the state's attorney's office and the FBI. So we wanted to make sure that we had sufficient evidence gathered.
Police described Kevin Jones as a type of hard-working young man that the city should applaud. 11 News spoke with his father and grandmother 2 days after he was killed.
He went to work every day, stayed out of trouble. I mean, he was just doing what he was supposed to do.
Whoever did it, they really don't know. They took all our hearts out because we all loved him so much.
And so now Commissioner Davis was questioned about the timing of the murder charge in relation to Keith Davis's recent acquittal at a separate trial. He said that the murder charge is about justice and called any insinuation otherwise absurd. We're live at police headquarters tonight. Kyrie, WBAL TV 11 News.
All right, so we're going to start with the first part here, which is that was the news report about what happened to the brother, Kevin Jones, 22, right? Kevin Jones, 22, he looked like he was a security guard that worked for Pilcom, and supposedly a man, he had been shot supposedly several times. So accordingly, that the police supposedly had accosted Keith Davis Jr., and that accordingly that they were originally getting him about robbery, right? And supposedly during this encounter about the robbery, trying to apprehend him, supposedly he had guns, right? And so everything that when they arrested him, but to give you some more background to the Keith Davis situation, the day that they accosted him about apprehending him, they shot at him supposedly 33 times, hit him 3 times, one in the neck, blew his face off. Supposedly, that's what the reports talk about, blew his face off with a 40 cal shotgun, and he survived, right? And so based on his survival, they had to now go through trial, right? And so accordingly, they said that they had forensics at the crime scene. They talking about the cell phone, and they said that the gun they had recovered on the day that they apprehended him. Now, this is what they said in this story that you just seen here. And they said, then you heard the commissioner, the commander, the chief said at some point, right? Now he changed it from saying at the scene to now at some point, right? And then it was 9 months later after that is when you came out, had the press conference, and because in that 9 months duration, Keith Davis Jr. had went to trial for the robbery. that they originally supposedly had accosted him about. But that case, he beat. Right? He beat that trial. So all the evidence in that trial, except for the gun, was the only thing that they left. Not for some odd reason. And then later on, they tied the gun to the killing of Kevin Jones, right? And then you hear what the commander is talking about now, that they had sufficient evidence, right, at this particular time. Now, this is the origin of the beginning of this case here, right? That is the beginning of the origin of it, right? And so let me show you the second part here, right? Going to the second part. Let me cue it up for us, right? And okay. Let me do this here. Do this here, because I think that's the last part here. Okay. So what we're gonna see here is the fact that, check this out, and then I'll come back after that. Let's do this first.
Well, tonight, more accusation of corruption in the Baltimore City Police Department. The Civilian Review Board says that all charges should be dropped against a man set to go on trial for a third time for murder. That board says that 4 officers should pay for what they did to Keith Davis Jr. ABC 2 News' Eddie Kadam is live at police headquarters. So, Eddie, their findings, what exactly does this mean and what happens now?
The board says that Davis never fired a gun at police officers and likely didn't have a gun on him at all. He's accused of murdering a Pimlico racecourse security officer in 2015. Now, just 5 hours later, police say he was seen leaving the scene of an accident and they pursued him, and that was just blocks away from the murder scene. Kelly Davis has maintained that her husband, Keith Davis Jr., is innocent since he was arrested.
My husband is innocent. My husband did nothing wrong that day. Nothing wrong that day but survive. 44 shots shot at him from 4 Baltimore City police officers.
In June of 2015, police were seeking out Davis as a robbery suspect. He was arrested after police chased him down and shot him. He's in jail after being convicted for having an illegal handgun. Now he's set to go to trial for the murder of Pimlico racecourse security guard Kevin Jones. The Civilian Review Board says all the charges against Davis should be dropped.
Mr. Davis was shot by the police unjustly. This information was in the hands of the State's Attorney's Office for Baltimore City. This information was in the hands of the police department for Baltimore City. And as we have been crying for since the beginning of this saga, that these charges should have and shall be dismissed.
The Office of the State's Attorney had this to say about the findings. Quote, "The board's findings are separate and apart from the criminal proceedings currently pending against the defendant, for which we cannot comment. The findings call for 2 police officers to be terminated and for 2 more to be suspended."
Circumstantial evidence tied only by a handgun, that we now have an independent review from the Civilian Review Board. The officers who originally testified in this matter testified inconsistently.
The review board pointed to a crime lab investigation that showed a gun that police say had Davis's fingerprints on it was never fired, and all the bullets fired at the scene were from officers.
Testimony from the Baltimore Police Department is that this gun was not fired, yet we still have a murder charge. The ease within which this can be ignored is scary.
Davis is looking at a lifetime in prison with a court date for murder in June.
This ink, this, holding officers accountable, saying that they did something so egregious on that day that they are calling for them to be terminated. This is the ink that we've been waiting for. And the fight does not stop until my husband crosses that threshold of my home.
The board sent their findings to Commissioner D'Souza, suggesting that 2 officers be fired and 2 more be suspended, and also asking for an explanation if the commissioner disagrees with their suggestions. Now, a spokesperson for the Baltimore City Police Department did say that they got those suggestions today and they are looking into it. Live at Baltimore City Police Headquarters, Eddie Kadam, ABC 2 News.
All right. So, again, we see this is in 2015 when this all originally took place in the city of Baltimore. And accordingly, they said that the mistaken him for a robbery suspect, and supposedly Mr. Davis is pulling a gun on the officers, as I told you originally before playing that. You hear the wife said it was 44 shots. The article said there was 33 shots. You've seen his face, right? Gunshot in the face and then his neck. So basically, with that many shots, he was not supposed to survive, right? So what you've seen is the police review board vindicated him and said that based on the evidence that they had and what was said in testimony-wise, that there was lack of collaboration between the officers. The gun that was found on the scene said it had never been fired, right? And so accordingly, also what I had run through my research is that this had been the first police shooting after or involvement since the Freddie Gray situation, right? And everybody kind of remember what happened with Freddie Gray and how that became national attention. And so what we see is based on the evidence that you heard there that were suspect as into convicting this brother, right? That again, they ignore these things that really would exonerate a person. A gun that you find at the scene that has not been fired and is through your ballistics and testing say that gun never been fired. So how could this be used to, incriminate somebody when you say you have experts that testify to say his palm print is on the gun? Now remember, this brother had got shot up 3 times out of 44 to 33 times bullets flying. So he's laid out. So, we have to ask ourselves, if this brother didn't do it, and the Kevin Jones, who was the one that did him if this brother didn't do it, right? Who was the one that did it? And so, you see that, according to what you heard in that newscast, that Davis was charged with robbery, but they also had 12 other charges on him. But it was a jury that acquitted him on all the charges. But there was the one thing they didn't was accept the gun, right? And so, as you heard, or I will tell you, so after that trial that he was acquitted in, and because they did not somehow, the gun, I don't understand how the gun didn't get, but somehow they was able to build new charges with the gun, because again, they started saying that they had, the evidence to support the fact that this gun was at is the gun that was used to kill Kevin Jones. They also said they found casings on the site, and the expert is testifying that the casings matched the gun, and then there's a palm print on the gun, right? So just keep all this in mind, right? Keep all that in mind. And so this unsolved murder of the security guard, Kevin Jones, we see that police find this brother, but they had said he had a robbery prior to that. So he wasn't even guilty of the robbery, right? So everything seems suspect. Everything seemed like, well, what's going on here, right? And so, they claim that Keith Davis was in the vicinity of that. If you heard the wife, or you heard in the newscast say that he was in an accident, right? So if he was in an accident, and they say that he was in the vicinity of where Kevin Jones was murdered, and then they said his cell phone, well, that would be obvious if his cell phone, if he was on it, You understand? What about his records and all that other stuff, right? Again, I guess you had to probably be in the court to know this, right? And so, you know, it goes on talking about the cell phone data placed Davis in the area. So all you had to do is just be in the area. Somehow the casings, right? But casings, that don't mean that the gun that was fired was there. But how do you put the who you're charging with at the scene of the crime? Because when you are dealing with him, that had nothing to do with him being at the murder scene. So somehow you're tracing it back to that. And again, I am sympathetic as well to Kevin Jones, because see, Kevin Jones is the victim in this as well. He's not getting any justice. If again, well, wait till you see the end part here, that if Kevin Davis Jr. is not really who did it, then Kevin Davis Jr. is being sought for something that he didn't do, and that means that Kevin Jones, who did become a victim of fatality of this crime, ain't getting justice either. And it seems like, why is people going all out their way to cover up, to do something like this, when again, as Johnny Cochran, our ancestor now, Johnny Cochran would say, if it don't fit, you must acquit, right? So let me show you this. And matter of fact, let me tell you this. Do you know that he had 4 trials for this murder case, right? Keith Davis Jr. had 4 trials for this, right? And let me tell you what happened in the 4, right? Let me show you this. Now, the state's attorney who picked up in Baltimore, name is Marilyn Mosby, right? And she was going to go 4 years trying to get a guilty verdict, right? Because she wanted to, again, as a state's attorney, when they're doing their job and they get the right individual, that's what you expect them to do. Because, again, the Jones family needed closure. And so, in the sense of a state's attorney pressing charges based on the evidence that's been presented to them, they had to take the credibility of those who presented. But again, after you've seen the case of the Central Park 5, right? And how the reenactment and how that district attorney and how what was going on, and they just wanted to get a conviction, right? So that's kind of in our mind because so many people just watch that, right? And so you have to look at the fact of this. Let me tell you this. Let me tell you this. This is what's gonna blow your mind about this. And again, this didn't get national attention, and I'm gonna give you the reason why that didn't happen. Now, again, he went to trial 4 times, right? He faced murder trial 4 times, right? Now, 2 of those trials ended up in a mistrial, right? 2 of those. 1 trial was acquitted. Well, let's put it this way. He was one with all but 1 juror voting to acquit him. So he basically had a unanimous decision that he was to be acquitted, except for 1, which they call that, a hung jury, right? So 1 person held out while 11 people said, he didn't do this, right? Then the 3rd time, a judge was overturning the conviction. So they tried to convict him, and the judge overturned the conviction. Huh? So, is my man innocent or is he not? Right? So, let me show you this last piece here. Check this out and be right back.
A guilty verdict. A jury finds Keith Davis Jr. guilty of 2nd-degree murder, something his family and friends say isn't true.
Free Keith Davis! Drop the charges!
Keith Davis is accused of shooting and killing Pimlico Racecourse security guard Kevin Jones back in 2015. This was his 4th retrial. Two juries deadlocked, one conviction overturned. Davis's wife says she knew this was a possibility after she heard the state's closing arguments, but stresses it's not the end.
Keith's motion for a new trial will be filed as soon as possible, and we will just do this again because the truth is on our side. My voice will only get louder. His support will only get stronger, and we will continue to do this until my husband walks through the door. So this jury of 12, we've been here before.
State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby released a statement stating this case has always been about finding justice for Kevin Jones. She stated, quote, "I am so pleased a jury saw fit to once again hold his assailant fully accountable for his senseless death. I truly hope Kevin's loved ones can finally close this gruesome chapter and find a path to healing."
All right, so you heard it right there, right? You heard that right there. So they end up convicting Keith Davis Jr. And let me say this too, because see, again, right now there's no winners in this because, you know, even though they have said that Kevin Davis Jr. has been convicted for the murders, but there's a lot of questions again, because how did you get 4 trials? That's a lot of people who seem to agree that he didn't do this, that you got a jury this time to do it, right? And so, you know, that's kind of questionable. That's 3-1, right? Three times it's saying he didn't, and there was this one time he said he did. So it's kind of like, how did the one come when 3 other people or 3 other situations is deemed to said he wasn't? Now, again, I don't have no horse in the race. I'm just news, again, Black Minds News, reporting the news because it's relevant for us as black people because, again, we deal with the justice system on a daily basis. And so he being charged with second-degree murder. Again, his sentence will come in November. Now, this is something you're going to have to look at the fact. Okay? Now, again, as I told you earlier in this broadcast, that originally how they got Keith Davis Jr. was on what? Robbery. Okay? Remember, I also told you that from Freddie Gray's situation, he was the very first one that they had an incident that had to deal with police, right? So that means that was going to restoke the camera and the attention on the Baltimore Police Department, right? And so if you as a cop, did you want that heat? Do you want to go through all this? Do you know what you're going to lose? Because you got to remember, they only found a cell phone at the scene with him. They didn't find nothing else on him, right? But they said he had a gun. Remember, they said the reason why they started shooting is because they said he shot at them. Yet, the gun that they try to use is the gun they said is killing the brother Kevin Jones, 22, the Pimco security guard who's going to actually on his way to go to college. Good, hardworking young man. Family love him, right? And somehow, instead of the gun being casings that are shooting at police, according to originally what you say, you now done made this gun go all the way to a place that you said was in the vicinity. I don't know if it's the same day this is happening, right? And it couldn't have been the same day, right? And so, based on them knowing this, because what was going to happen now, after you done did all this shooting, this man don't have gun. You ain't got no reason for all y'all popping off like that. Baltimore already hot from the Freddie Gray situation. You need a cover up. Maybe you need a cover up. And so, is that what maybe happened here? Is that allegedly what's happened here? That Keith Davis Jr. because, one, you didn't want to be the one. And it was not going to just be one because all of them, they said all four of the police officers let it off. And basically, he was not supposed to survive. Think about that. Creator was there protecting that man so that he would not die. 44 bullets flying at you like that and only getting 3 hit you. And when they hit you, you still survive. None of them hit you violently so that you would be dead. He's still here and the case is still prevalent. And let me show you something else. And this is the reason why I'm trying to show you this. So with that being said, so again, because remember, the jury what? Acquitted him of the robbery. So if they acquitted him of the robbery, right? If they acquitted him of the robbery, then shouldn't them been accountable for what they did to him? So I'm still can't figure out how could a gun that was part of a robbery but somehow it's get excluded to be now retried for this gun that we found on you here is now going to be tied somewhere else. Again, they said they didn't have a gun, said they had a cell phone, right? So is that like the JFK magic bullet? Is that the bullet that they found on the gurney when they came to the hospital and they said there was a bullet that was sitting there on the gurney next to him? Right? Was this the magic gun? Right? So with that being said, that means if he gets out, what's going to happen? You're going to have to rebring this whole trial back to the origins of where it began, and it's going to bring what? Back onto the police department of Baltimore. And they already have been under the scrutiny because, again, with the Freddie Gray situation, they didn't want that. So now what happens? What happens now? Check this one. Check this twist out. Tell me if, again, as I said earlier, was this a political ruse? I can't tell you what to think. I'm just reporting what I see. So, did we not just hear recently, the same day, ironically, the day that they do the verdict is the day that they talk about the Donald Trump Baltimore mouse written. Let me say that again. Is it ironic that the day that they do to convict Keith Davis Jr. is the same time that this Elijah Cummings and Baltimore being rat infested? You know what I'm saying? This whole thing that was said by Trump, and then this whole thing talked about this as a deflection, not to cover, so that the national attention they get on this, because again, you would have seen 4, like you're seeing now. 4? How can somebody be 4 times? It take you 4 times to convict somebody? What's wrong with the case? So was this a political ruse? Is what you got to ask yourself. Is that what happened here? So, you understand? So the brothers then again, they're going to be sent in November again. As you heard the wife say, they're going to go ahead and retry it again. Right? So, damn shame just going to use red tape and keep tying you up to keep going through this whole, situation. Well, I want to bring that to y'all, man. That came to me this morning. I seen it. Spirit said I got to talk about it. So here it is. I laid it out. So again, this is Black Minds News. I want to thank y'all for those who clicked on and listened to it. Tell me what you think. Express how you feel about it. Tell me how you see it. Maybe do your own research and then come back and give me some stuff. Because, again, I just told you the story. I don't give you everything. I give you something so you might be inquisitive and know. Go find for yourself as well. I do what I do, but I also leave some for you to go to research if you want to be more in detail about something. A lot of stuff is just racial discrimination. But then when stories like this, if you really want to know, get in there and look. It's in there, right? So, again, I want to thank everybody. Again, we see one another. Get a universal nod. Say what's up, good brothers, sisters, and all that good stuff. And again, remember, we all on the same team here, right? And we just going to have to find ways that camaraderie, love, and understand that the deck has always been stacked against us. And that all we got is each other. And it seems like some things have ways that they can get around everything. There don't have to be no accountability for none of the stuff that they do. And if not, I find other ways, and I still railroad you in another sense. So again, Black Minds News, Black Love, peace, love, and one, y'all.